Hello, everybody. I'm Caitlin. My short height and young looks may make me look like a kid, but appearances can be deceptive. I'm actually 34 years old. I know it sounds crazy, but it's all down to my super rare condition called Turner syndrome. It's a disease that only females have. It means I only have one X chromosome, and as a result, it means I look far younger than I am. And I'm in the same height as your average 11-year-old. So even though I'm an adult, I pass for a kid. You may think this sounds great. Sure, I can go crazy in a candy store without raising suspicion, but other than that, looking way younger than I am is hard to live with. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My bro Jeremy and sis Dayla may be younger than me, but because of my condition, they both look older than me and they tower above me. I'm going to take you back to when I was 16 and my parents noticed that not only did I look younger than Dayla, but I was shorter than her too. I told myself it was nothing. I was just a slow developer, that's all. But my mom thought otherwise, so she dragged me to 7 different doctors. Then voila, one of them diagnosed me with Turner syndrome. Naturally, neither me nor my family had ever heard of this condition before. I mean, come on, a disease that makes someone stay young forever? It sounds like something out of a movie. Relax, I'm not dying or anything, but it does mean I'll never look like an adult. I realize people spend a bunch of money to look young, yet here I am, doing it without even having to try. But trust me, looking like a little kid when you're not one can be problematic. For instance, high school was a nightmare. I had this one friend called Alice. At first, we were pretty inseparable, but as time passed and she aged and I didn't, she began to single me out and join the other girls in making fun of me. They pretended to make baby crying noises when I walked past them, and one of them even put a baby doll in my locker with a picture of my face stuck to it. I stopped being friends with Alice after that, and watched on with sadness as other girls my age started dating boys, but no guy ever noticed me. Like seriously, they literally didn't notice me, especially the tall ones. And for the few that looked down and saw me, well, they made corny jokes like, "Hey, Caitlin, how's the weather down there?" And, "Someone better call kindergarten as they're missing a kid." However bad the teasing got, Dayla and Jeremy were always there for me. From cheering me up when I felt down, to passing me the cookie jar off the top shelf. I may be small, but I'm determined. So I made it to college and ended up qualifying as a teacher. On my first day of my new job, I was extremely nervous, but I reassured myself that I could do this. On seeing me for the first time, my students were surprised and clearly confused. One of them spoke and said, "Excuse me, little girl, are you lost or something? Where's your mommy?" Wow, the nerve of that girl, as if she just said that. I decided to take a deep breath and said, "No, I'm your teacher. I may look like an 11-year-old child, but I assure you that I'm not." They all snorted and laughed, and one kid said, "Yeah, right." So I passed my ID card around the class. I couldn't help but smile as one at a time they looked down at my ID with shocked faces. Priceless. During my first class, I taught my students about Turner syndrome so they could understand it. After that, they were respectful toward me. Apart from this one boy who clearly viewed himself as the class clown. Then he said, "Maybe next time you should wear a chipmunk outfit, or maybe an elf costume because that will totally fit you." The whole class laughed. So I gave him 4 weeks detention. I can assure you there was no laughter after that, nor did anyone make any comments about my condition again. One lunchtime, I was sitting in the staff room when the science teacher named Henry came over and sat next to me. Then he smiled and said, "Hey, how's your first week going?" Talk about handsome. My legs instantly felt like a jelly. We started talking about my condition, and he was very sweet about it. "I don't mind. I studied Turner syndromes before. It's okay because I like you. It's who you are." His words made my heart flutter. He was so sincere and kind. We started hanging out more, and then we started dating. Don't tell anyone, but sometimes I found him so irresistible that I couldn't resist kissing him in the janitor's closet. Of course, my condition caused us some problems. One time Henry and I were in a bar. I asked the bartender if I could have some vodka. He said, "Sorry, kiddo, you're too young to have some alcohol." Even when I showed him my ID, he still wouldn't serve me. Unbelievable. Another time we were kissing on a bench in the park. It was so romantic. Until some old lady screamed at us, "You sick pervert! How can you kiss a little girl?" To make it even more awful, 2 police officers showed up and I had to explain myself to them and show them my ID. Luckily, they believed me, and Henry wasn't arrested, but the old woman continued to give Henry dirty looks. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more awkward, we popped into the grocery store. Henry had just passed me the cereal, which I was too short to reach, when I heard someone behind me say, "Caitlin? Is that you?" Oh boy, I recognized that voice. I turned around and, yep, it was my old childhood friend Alice. She smirked and said, "Wow, you haven't changed a bit." But I'm not surprised. You never change. I replied, "Don't you have somewhere else to be? I'm hanging out with my boyfriend." She gave a shocked look as she looked at Henry. "Wait, you're dating her? Isn't she, a bit on the short side for you?" He just shrugged and told her, "I don't care what you think of her, as she's the most amazing woman I've ever met." She flicked her hair and replied, "Why don't you date someone your own size? I mean, look at me. I'm beyond sexy." "Yeah, from space." I rolled my eyes. Everyone in the store started laughing at her. Now look who's embarrassed. You know what they say, payback's, well, you know the rest. Regardless of all this drama, Henry stuck by my side and continued to support me. He even arranged for our families to meet. We met up in a restaurant. When Henry's parents saw me, they were kind of surprised. His mom greeted me with a hug, but his dad just glared at me. My parents keep asking Henry questions while Dayla and Jeremy chatted with Henry's twin sisters about sports. Things were going fine until out of nowhere, Henry's dad slammed his hand on the table and said, "I can't take this anymore. You shouldn't date my son. He's too good for you. Your shortness is going to ruin his life." I tried to keep composed, but inside this hurt more than I can possibly express into words. Henry stepped in and said, "That's enough, Dad. You can't treat people like that just because they're different. Shame on you." Then he got down on one knee and took a ring out of his pocket. "Caitlin, I love you, and I always will. So will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?" At first, I was speechless, but then I found my words and said, "Yes, yes, yes, I will marry you." I was crying with joy, and my family and his mom were clapping and hugging each other. But then Henry's dad shook his head in disgust. Then he stormed off. On our wedding day, Henry's dad refused to show up. I felt so bad for Henry, but he told me we shouldn't let his dad's bad choice ruin our perfect day. I was about to walk down the aisle when his dad burst into the room. Oh no, was he going to ruin the wedding? Everyone was staring at him, and I thought I was going to collapse from the shock of it all. But then he said, "I'm sorry for how I acted. It was wrong of me to judge you on your condition. I would very much like to be here for your wedding if you'll have me." I cried out, "Yes, of course, take a seat." Our wedding day was magical, and so was our life together. Things are still going well for Henry and me, and I'm now the happiest I've ever been. I may have the appearance of a child, and yes, my condition is never going to go away. But my life as an adult is amazing, and this is all thanks to the remarkable people I have in my life. I'm so fortunate to have them supporting me, and with them by my side, I'm able to find my inner strength and conquer any obstacles that get in my way, however big they may be.